Jason Jensen is joining us live tonight. We appreciate your time. I think a lot of people had these same questions. There's just too many coincidences here. So let's start with this creepy man. This couple moves their campsite because they saw this man. What have you learned and been able to uncover about who this was and how they're connected?
In light of all the circumstances that you just described, yeah, I mean, it leads a curious, reasonable mind to wonder if these two cases are connected. The problem is, though, from an investigative standpoint, is we don't know where Brian Laundrie and Gabby Petito were between the 13th and the 14th or 15th, which is actually the time frame we believe that Kylen and Crystal were murdered. You indicated the last time they were seen was the 13th, which actually was nearly midnight of the 13th, so almost the 14th. And at that point, they were leaving a friend's house to go back to their camp. And at that point, they hadn't been heard and were a no-call, no-show for work at 5:30 in the morning on the 15th, which was Sunday. So all of Saturday's in play that this could have happened to them in light of the police encounter that Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie encountered on the 12th, that they were separated to be apart till the 13th, the next morning. So most people would probably pack up, Gabby would drive over to the Bowen Motel, pick up Brian, and they would leave town. So unless there's some kind of evidence to show that they were actually still in town on the 14th, I would expect they took off and were somewhere else in Utah.
So I want to focus on this creepy man that they called about. Has anybody else witnessed that behavior, saw that man? What have you been able to uncover?
That's really who we're looking for. I mean, really, at the time of all of this, he was still their neighbor at this campsite, and they got a bad vibe from this guy. So we wonder who this guy is, and I don't think that there's a coincidence that somebody else is the murderer. I think it's really this creepy guy because they got bad vibes. And if you know anything about Kylen and Crystal, they were very down-to-earth people. They were not debutantes that somebody, would be beneath them. So it would take a lot for this guy to be creepy in their eyes.
Did they describe him? I mean, other than being creepy, a description of what he looked like?
I wish they had. I wish they would have took a picture of the car, described the guy, got a license plate number. In fact, my advice as a lesson learned from all this, if you think somebody's creepy and your life's in danger, document it some way. You're texting that, hey, we might have to move. This guy came back with more clothes and food, right. But why would you not, convey something more specific that could help if you thought your life was at risk?
Take a picture, right? We've all got our cell phones. So I want to go back to this. Police say the deaths of Crystal and Kylen, unfortunate, tragic, but that they are not connected to Gabby Petito's death or the search for Brian Laundrie. What is it particularly that you think there may be some connection that keeps having you come back to this one point?
Anyone that's been following the case knows that Kylen's father, Sean Paul, was at Moab for a whole month after the murder, and he opened in the park what he called the clue booth, and people from all around the community was bringing information to him about, this guy's been acting weird, this guy's strange, you might want to have police look at this guy, and so forth. So he amassed a large list of potential persons of interest, and one of them we can't help but add to the list, which is Brian Laundrie, because until we can prove he was out of the area, in light of all of these circumstances that you outlined, of course, he has to be considered until he's adequately ruled out.
So you have 25 years experience as a private investigator. You took on this case pro bono because you were interested in it, yet a lot of questions that the public has about Crystal and Kylen's death. And you have put together a list of people you think could be suspects. And what you're telling me is Brian Laundrie is currently on your list based on what you have uncovered so far.
Right, including the fact that, given the fact that when they described this guy as a creepy guy, they're not saying his name. So it's somebody that they're completely unfamiliar with. Obviously, somebody like a Brian Laundrie that's from out of town, they don't know who he is, so they don't know who to say is bothering them. So if it was somebody that they worked with or somebody that, they were neighbors with, they'd say, hey, Bob is bothering us, we're going to move or something. So clearly this is somebody that was giving them bad vibes that they were unfamiliar with that creeped them out. So clearly somebody that was staring at them or acting inappropriately.